Okay, remember, the only point of putting these on is to show them.
True that. And we are live, actually.
Okay.
But yeah, there you have it.
Yeah.
Welcome to no one in particular. I'm not sure if anyone is out there.
No one at all. Not no one in particular.
Well, the two of us.
In fact, since the stream started, it went from 2 watching to 1, which is you and me, to 1 watching, and back up to 2 watching.
Right. Well, it's probably just the two of us then.
Yeah. Just the 2 of us. There's a song like that. It's not in my genre of music.
Is that, however, how do you call that? An appreciation of our last streams.
Well, actually, I was just going to type something in the chat to do. Oh, and it's back down to 1 watching again.
Well, I wonder if it's actually keeping track.
Oh, no, that's you.
Yeah, this is hi, there is me. Yeah. So I wanted to see if it did something with the. Apparently, I'm the only one watching now.
No, you're not, because I'm watching. I'm typing into the chat.
So.
I know, that's what I'm saying. But it tells me you're not watching, because...
because you are. Yeah, YouTube is so much fun. Anyway, so yeah, there is that. I'm slightly scrolling through images.
Well, you see, it is a widely acknowledged fact that YouTube plays fast and loose with data, like how many is watching. And obviously, it is caught in 2 minds.
Uh-huh.
I should lie and reduce the number. Oh, hang on, there's only 2. They might notice. And thus it goes up and down as the 2 parts of the algorithm are like fighting each other.
Mm. Well, what can I say? YouTube is funny. But yeah, no, maybe this is how do you call it?
Wondering.
Appreciation of our latest streams.
Yeah, well, that's why I wrote what I wrote in my previous comment.
That's all right. What are we going to do? Are we going to wait a bit, or are we going to start?
Yeah, I think we have to wait a bit.
Okay, let's try not to talk about what we're going to talk about. Don't think of white elephants.
Don't think of white elephants.
Well, don't you know that one?
Surely pink.
Well, you can do pink as well if you want.
No, because white elephants are monumental wastes of money. Pink elements are fantastical creatures you see when drunk and hallucinating.
Yes, but neither are the point.
Well, yeah, I know, but pink elephants makes sense, but white elephants is a metaphor that doesn't have a physical representation.
Again, I'm still checking out images from. Let me share this one.
Funnily enough, what you are displaying isn't what's in the stream when I don't. No, even when I do talk. Oh no, when I don't talk, I'm not visible, and when I do talk, you're not visible.
It could be that the stream is going slower than we are. Can you see this one though?
Yes, I can.
Okay, let me see how.
I can see it on. Oh yes, it's turned up over there as well.
Yeah, now it's on this. You see, when we're talking, I mean, what's being broadcasted and what we're saying has a significant delay.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, I know, I understand that. It's just I'm old and easily confused, and having 2 screens on a time delay blows my mind and breaks me.
It is quite annoying, to be honest.
Rabbit.
Okay, so it is possible to live well with dementia and write bestsellers like what I do. We lost a great one when Terry Pratchett decided to call it quits. Anyway, I shouldn't go forward on the topic. We can sort of randomly hanging around.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure we always end up repeating ourselves anyway. So I mean,
That is true. That is true.
No, literally, I don't know whether it's because we're being shadow banned by YouTube. People do complain about not getting
Oh, I mean, come on. I'm going to share this one as well.
Yeah, hang on. Sorry. You carry on. I'm just, my brain's trying to.
See, we're going to start talking in a moment anyway about the education of society and great writers and whatnot. And then this is something that I always found brilliant. There are, it has been said, two types of people in the world. There are those, when presented with a glass that is exactly half full, say, this glass is half full. And then there are those who say, this glass is half empty. The world belongs, however, to those who can look at the glass and say, what's up with this glass? Excuse me, this is my glass? I don't think so. My glass was full, and it was a bigger glass. It's so fucking brilliant.
Oh, we have 3.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Fanboying and all that.
Well, actually,
Hey, Nick Radio. Sorry,
damn it. I was typing hello mystery viewer and then he announced himself. Red balloons in Vice City stories. There are words. I understand them individually. Put them together and I haven't got a clue. Hunting red balloons in Vice City stories. I'll finish my thought anyway. Yeah, and Nick, please, if you do glance at the screen, please read my earlier comment as to why I have tape to ensure my modesty.
Well, go on then with your story. Come on.
Well, I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about?
That's what you get for the Lena Dunham cosplay. Brilliant, Nick.
Well, there you go. That is a great analogy to my explanation of checking my male privilege.
Yeah, it's all part.
I'm checking my male privilege, and this results in doing Lena Dunham cosplay. Then my tits might be a bit bigger. I don't know.
But considering that we now have, one of the great writers that frequent this establishment.
Oh no! Sorry. I remember. You showed the image with the glass.
Yeah.
Being the way I am, an awkward twat. When people say the glass is half full or half empty, I go, which is good and which is bad? After all, if a glass is only half empty, that's better than it's only half full.
But yeah, no, I was going to say that Nick.
that went flatter than a pancake.
Yeah, that was
No, it wasn't. I mean, the point is we discuss things in these cliche terms and never actually understand what is being said. And my point is, all you have to add is not. You have to think about things and properly examine them, because what can sound superficially true actually is it doesn't withstand proper investigation, is my point. It's a cheap point made easily, and is worth nothing as a consequence. Is what I'm trying to say.
True. And hi there, Michael Keller. Bleach, I've been told it helps. But considering that we have a few people here, the topic
Both of them.
Yeah.
Thank you, noble viewers. Your sacrifice is appreciated.
Sacrifice is appreciated. Well, the goal of today's stream is to make people read more Terry Pratchett. No, that's not true. Well, it should be true.
Okay, so I think I can do the world a favour and turn off the video now.
Okay. Yeah, but we were talking pre-stream. We were talking about what the hell would we talk about during today's stream, and I was like, okay, you know what? Let's just do a hangout where we talk about shit that we talk about. And then we started talking.
Yeah, and Modwayne wanted to kill me.
How?
You wanted to give me a cigar and make me smoke it.
Yeah, but you won't die from a cigar, mate. That's...
Says you. Says you.
Says me. Have you walked around in the city of London?
Yes, and I am aware that it is even less healthy than smoking.
Okay. Now, smoking a cigar is clean.
I live Leeward side.
You live what?
Leeward side, wind side.
Okay.
Downwind of London, and I get all the lovely shitty air pollution as a result. How what? Modwayne Elleron. As John's English, yes, I am. May I suggest an old Victorian disembodiment ceremony? I don't know what one of those is.
That's taking away your body, mate. Not nice. For fuck's sake, this is going off to a good start, isn't it? Anywho,
I think people are free to express their opinions, no matter how distasteful. Or, to be honest, you see, it's just my sense of humour. That's why I did it. Okay, and I apologise for making you people suffer the trauma of being part of my joke. And you probably don't find it funny, and you can curse me forever. And I would suggest having a lot to drink so you sleep better.
Anywho, let's get this thing started on something else than John's
nipples.
No, they're dutifully covered up.
Yeah, because of my nipples.
So, as I was starting to say, John and I were talking pre-stream about, okay, what we're going to talk about, and then we started talking about, society at large, blah, 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 topics that we usually talk about, and then we started talking about reading and writing, and...
Not writing, just reading books.
Oh, actually reading, indeed. Well, not our writing. We're writing, but not ours.
No, but if you talk about reading and writing, it sounds like two actions of us, not... We were just talking about people who like reading.
Yeah, that's true. And we started talking about how the certain writers have been...
Well, didn't you start off talking about Pratchett? So we should start there with, what's the word? A dutiful praising of Terry Pratchett, literary genius.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Then maybe I started with that one. And then we started talking about...
No, I'm saying, why don't we start now with that?
No, let's... No.
No, and then we can move on.
To Terry Pratchett. We came to Terry Pratchett for a reason. And that reason is equally important to me. Because we started talking about, if I'm not mistaken, we started talking about how you started talking about, you said something about, what was it, Jane Austen? The writer?
Well, I just pointed out. Oh, okay. So I was commenting how in what are often considered stereotypical, because it came from was it the cigar or was it something else? What was stereotypically male and female traits and things we enjoy? And I pointed out that I probably come out 90% female in the things I enjoy. For instance, I said my favourite author is Jane Austen and my favourite book is Jane Eyre.
Yeah.
This is what I said. And that enabled Modwayne to bulldoze her in with Terry Pratchett.
Well, that didn't even start with that one. I did start with Jane. I used to write
I'm joking.
Yeah, no, I know, but it's part of the story. Let's get the story going.
No, the story doesn't matter.
No, it does.
No, it doesn't. They don't need to know our internal mental gymnastics.
But it shows. It shows. No, it doesn't. It's not so much that it shows intent, but it shows
intent. Yes, we mean to bore you to death.
It shows a certain amount of appreciation, because then we started talking about the great writers we have read, and Jane Austen, Dostoevsky, and then later we came to Terry Pratchett.
Almost straight away, honestly.
Well, we're pretty fast. Pretty fast. We came to Terry Pratchett, and then basically you started reading.
No, what I said was, as far as I'm concerned, Terry Pratchett is a better writer than Dostoevsky. Thus, what is said in the description. It's not a typo, Michael Keller. We looked and debated as to which spelling we use. We use the Wikipedia one, as Wikipedia is the fount of all knowledge.
Yes. That and the fact that we could find 4 different ways of spelling it.
Yeah, because it's a translation after all. From Cyrillic to the Latin alphabet. And so there is no literal correct translation.
But we kind of did anticipate people asking questions.
Which is why I had the Wikipedia up so I could just paste it into the chat for you to go and see.
Anyway, so we started talking about how, for example, Dostoevsky, great writers, historical...
People considered great writers. This was my point.
Sorry?
Not great writers, but people considered great writers.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. And it's kind of funny because we started talking and then we realized that we both read Terry Pratchett. And I started reading Terry Pratchett relatively young. I already had read a few of the big names, so to speak. I started reading Terry Pratchett. Wow, how old was I? I think somewhat around my 20s. And I kind of stopped reading the big names, the Dostoevskys, and because I found Pratchett to be so much better. Hide I Real Even, by the way.
And contained giggles.
And it contained giggles. And if we look at, for example, fantasy writers like Tolkien, I like Tolkien. Tolkien is a great storyteller. We talked about C.S. Lewis. We talked about, now I forgot the name. Orwell. These are all great writers. And still, I'm here to contend to say they're great writers and they can't hold a candle to Terry Pratchett. And I really believe that. Because where all of these writers are great storytellers, or they are good at giving off wisdom or concepts that was being held. Terry Pratchett does it in such a way that most people don't even recognize what they're reading, but they're picking it up. Now, Kafka is brilliant too. This is what John said, and okay, I agree with that. As is Dostoevsky, as is...
I don't agree Dostoevsky is brilliant. This is my point. I read the Brothers Karamazov, and it was a bloody soap opera.
Yeah.
It was just little episodes of what's happening in this family, and there was nothing of import said. Just, it was like trash. It was like a trash novel. But why does it appeal? And this was the question. It appeals, it seems, due to intellectual snobbery. That is, its very inaccessibility is what gives it an aura of greatness.
Yeah. Yeah, and funny enough, Terry Pratchett, I mean, if I look at myself, Terry Pratchett is one of, and it's stupid what I'm going to say next, but Terry Pratchett is one of the writers that actually influenced me more than I care to admit or care to understand, because it's so difficult to recognize how deep his influence actually has gotten on me. And not just him, because Stan Lee, funny enough, is another writer, a cartoon writer, fair enough, that had a massive influence on my life. Not so much because of Spider-Man or but because of other characters within his storylines. And because these are considered popular or lowbrow, people kind of like to deny or fail to recognize the greatness in it. And out of all the writers, I'm fanboying here. I totally agree with everyone who would say that. But I really do think Terry Pratchett is one of the biggest we have seen so far.
Well, humor, as I keep trying to say to people, is a very powerful weapon. It is why the court jester was the only one who could say what they literally thought in the medieval courts.
Yeah. And by making funny observations or silly sound bites, he actually he spoke more truth to power than anyone I can care to mention. I mean, this is one of his quotes. Science is not about building a body of known facts. It is a method for asking awkward questions and subjecting them to reality checks, thus avoiding the human tendency to believe whatever makes us feel good.
Yeah, exactly.
And
it is the opposite of ideology.
I could ask millions of people, okay, give me a clear definition of science. And I'm one of those people, don't get me wrong. Science is the objective measurement of blah, 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 blah. Yeah, no, that's true. But this quote is far better at explaining what science is than the literal definition of the word science.
Well, again, one of my big bugbears, which, I come up with over and over, is we start talking about topics without agreeing what the fundamental terms we are discussing actually mean. And so everyone has their own interpretation. This is just a natural consequence of our brains. And therefore, one of the reasons why academic studies go on so long is the need to create at least an attempt at a consistent framework for everyone to think along the same lines.
Yeah.
And so you spend years and years basically just learning the jargon and setting the conceptual framework for the study itself. Unfortunately, what tends to happen then is that conceptual framework can deviate from reality, but the people are so steeped in it, they think reality is deviating from them, if you know what I mean.
Perhaps Pratchett's secret is that he didn't aim to be a great writer. It's easy to create a work that has to be decoded and analyzed. It's not so easy to create a story that doesn't need to be hidden. You know, Nick's Radio, you might be right.
Well, this is kind of paraphrasing the point I was trying to make earlier, that people like Dostoevsky are considered great out of intellectual snobbery, by being inaccessible.
And the one thing I found about Terry Pratchett, one of the amazing things I always found about him, is he recognized that people liked his work. And I won't say he stayed humble, because that's bullshit. Staying humble doesn't mean a thing. But he stayed human. He recognized
grounded.
Yeah,
a good term.
yeah. Humble is
J.K. Rowling, please take notes.
Yeah, but she's staying humble.
No, she's not.
Yes, she is, because she recognizes that all of her characters in the book would have been gay because of current political argument.
If she was staying humble, she wouldn't come out with all the political
true
signaling bullshit.
True that. And then in that he
I think the on the subject of decoding, this is an old story. It goes back to the late 70s, early 80s. But Bob Dylan was already a very well established artist with a massive body of work. Okay, a revered figure. Okay, by then. And somebody in America, what a surprise, had written a PhD or something, a treatise on the hidden meaning in Bob Dylan's works. And he had produced this incredible analysis and revealed all this hidden meaning. And Bob Dylan looked at this and just said, no, that's bollocks. It just means what it means.
Yeah.
Because you can read into things given enough effort and obsession. Just because you find stuff doesn't mean it was ever meant to be there.
She'd let some immigrant live at her place, if really humble, give back to humanity. Indeed, on your talk, but as all of the good virtue signalers, they only talk about how the world needs to open the doors to them whilst they live in their gated communities. And the question is, indeed, would they let her live with them? And we already know the answer to that one as well, because what's the name of that silly bint? That was this. I think it's a reporter or something, and she was so proud that she gave her house to some Syrian refugee. Well, she rented it out, and then when she wanted to go back, she couldn't because they just wouldn't leave. What was her name now? She did that stupid show in Calais.
A stupid show in what?
Well, one of those English reporters, and she went to Calais talking about
Calais.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said. It sounded like colour, and I'm thinking a show in colour. Yes, we've had colour television for 50 years.
No.
Sorry, Calais.
And hi there, Daisy Pumpkin.
Well, was it Lawrence Southern went to Calais?
No, not Lawrence Southern. No, it's an English reporter. Laura Southern isn't.
Well, you just said a stupid bint who went to Calais, and the only female reporter I know who went to Calais was Lawrence Southern.
Nah, but she's not a stupid bint, is she?
No, I didn't say that, but I don't know that's not your opinion of her. I would never assume to know what you think of anything. Pop star. Do you mean someone like
I forgot.
No, it's oh shit, what's his name?
was that
Richardson.
Maybe. I can't remember.
Yeah.
She went there and she was, oh, look at the poor children here at Calais.
Yeah. The problem is, I can only think of her father, who isn't insane.
And then she rented out her, I think, her London flat or something to some series.
Rented, not gave.
Yeah, rented. Rented. And then when she wanted to go back, they were like, yeah, well, we're paying rent, so sort of.
Yeah, well, there are. Yes, there are.
I forgot her name.
Yeah, no, it's all right. We now all know who you mean. I'd give room to a Scottish refugee. Yes.
If I see her face, I might. No, because she was there and, oh, won't you think of the children? And we all know how many children came from Calais. 15-year-old men with beard and all. So yeah, there was that. Anyway, so yeah, no. Back to. I think. Well, I mean, there are plenty of people in the stream who already know.
Alan, that's fair. Well, Lily Allen, well done.
Lily Allen, thank you, Annie Attack. Your Google foo is stronger than mine, that's for sure. I couldn't find it.
No, I must admit, I had to laugh because I was listening to Honey Badger stream yesterday, and there was it wasn't on yesterday, but I was listening yesterday, and they said Kelly Osbourne, and it was actually Sharon Osbourne. How you could confuse
that
Kelly Osbourne for her mother is beyond me.
Quite a difference. Oh, I'm going to give you guys another quote from Terry Pratchett from one of his books, and I think it is fucking brilliant. He grinned. It was the sort of grin that Agnes supposed was called infectious. But then, so was measles. It's brilliant. I mean, yeah, no, it might look nice, but I forgot. I can't find the claim right now.
Nick, if you could do better, you've got to understand, right? My pop references ended somewhere in the mid-1980s. That I even know about Lily Allen is a miracle. Nightmare, depending upon which way you want to look at it. Just saying.
Oh. Do you not know that a man is not dead while his name is still spoken? Again, Terry Pratchett. How is that not a brilliant phrase? Now, this one I already knew from someone else, so he made a different version of it. But these are true gems. Wow, this has completely turned into a fanboy stream, that's for sure.
Yeah, but so the idea. Okay, so my idea was you'd fanboy over Pratchett, then we would explain what I initially said, and you seem to agree, why Pratchett is a better author than Dostoevsky.
Well, yeah, we can go there now. We can go there.
Because he is. Next.
He is. Well, obviously. Point. This is
actually it's a bit tricky because we've already had several comments in the chat who all agree with us that Dostoevsky is boring and overrated.
Yeah. But this is another thing that I found very funny, and I can't find the article back, but there was an interview with Terry Pratchett some time ago when he was the most stolen English product in the world. His books were stolen so often from libraries and bookstops shops that those thefts alone out being stolen. How do you say something like that? Anyway,
stolen.
His books were stolen so often it made headlines, so to speak. And he was absolutely chuffed about it. It was so brilliant. He's like, okay, yeah, people steal my books. You know why? They like them. Would be nice if they bought them, but it's more important that they like them. It was brilliant. It says something about the man, I guess.
Yeah. And the way you have an affinity. After all, these things aren't universal.
Mike Spillane is the best fiction writer in the history of fiction.
Mickey Spillane. He was the one who did those ones that Humphrey Bogart did, I believe.
What, the Humphrey Bogart? That's the detective, isn't it?
Yeah. Mickey Spillane was an author who wrote stories.
I couldn't remember the name, I have to admit. I read a few, Bogart books. They were easy reading. I mean, they were fun, but...
Mike Hammer. He wrote books about Mike Hammer. And he was an American detective. So I don't think Humphrey Bogart ever played Mike Hammer.
Oh, what was the other one then?
Humphrey Bogart played a couple of them. Named. So long since I watched those films. I love watching those films.
This is another great quote, guys. I have to share this one. It is often said that before you die...
Marlowe and Sam Spade. Thank you, Nick Schrader.
Ah, okay. It is often said that before you die, your life passes before your eyes. It is in fact true. It's called living.
Yeah.
How I mean, yeah, I mean, how is that not brilliance? It's true, it's simple.
We are now going to have a stream of philosophy. In particular, the philosophy of Terry Pratchett.
Yeah, but I mean, seriously,
I know. I'm just saying.
It's the same thing as Columbus's egg. How can you stand up an egg? Well, once you know how to do it, you can do it. There's always the first, and the first one is the more important one. And yeah.
Sorry, I'm reading Nick Radio's comment. The name of the authors escaped me, but considering the hosts of the show, I'll let myself slide. Indeed, and I'm sure all of us have access to the internet and a search engine. Not the infamous Evil Empire, but may I suggest DuckDuckGo, for example, as a very acceptable way of searching things?
Paulo, how am I like the Spanish Inquisition? I don't say ole a lot.
No, no one expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Well, there is that. It's kind of funny though, because they made several films of several Discworld books, and they're pretty good. Who of you guys is smoking the cigar? Well, obviously that's me.
Nobody expected that joke. Everybody expected that joke, Paolo. I do not in any way delude myself on that score. But there is always a comedic art of presenting the obvious in a funny voice. I've baffled you, have I?
Yes.
No, I'm saying you give the obvious joke, but if you say it in a funny voice, it becomes funny.
Yeah.
You don't agree, obviously.
No, it's true. It's true. It's true.
Well, there you go then. If it's true, that's all that matters. You don't have to sit there in silence, pondering on the deeper meaning of something that is said with the utmost flippancy. So anyway, so we're agreed.
Yeah.
To be a great author, You do not have to write complicated, convoluted, impenetrable prose. You can tell a amusing story in an ingenious way with subtle nuances and complexes, and that's what Terry Pratchett does.
Yeah.
And what's more, you enjoy reading Terry Pratchett.
You do, and he absolutely makes sense. I mean, seriously.
When you say it makes sense, we're talking about a fictional universe based on a flat Earth, riding on the back of 4 elephants, riding on the back of a giant sea turtle called Great Atwin. But apart from that, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I did. But it is, how do you call it? It is transformative. Nice words, transformative. It can mean whatever you want it to mean.
Okay, now I am a heathen. I cannot stand orchestral music. I like rock music. I have a penchant for punk music of the most elemental nature. One of the bands I once saw, called the Adverts, did a song called One Chord Wonders, a play on the joke about the blues being 3 chords.
Okay.
Yeah. And the point is this: at the end of the day, the greatness of a work of art is how much you get out of it, not how frigging fancy the bloody thing is.
No, that's true.
And to put this into perspective, there's an American composer called Philip Glass, who literally released a track called 5 Minutes of Silence, which was, you guessed it, 5 minutes of silence. Now, call me old-fashioned, but the most useless punk band is better than 5 minutes of silence.
Well, there is more to it. I mean,
no, there isn't. It's bollocks. It's like these abstract works of art which are given a pretentious title but are really just daubs of paint.
Yeah, but then let me then bring up the next quote of Terry Pratchett. People, this is a fanboy stream for those of you who hasn't known.
No, it's a half fanboy stream.
Human beings make life so interesting. Do you know that in a universe so full of wonders, they have managed to invent boredom? Says it all, really.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to 5 minutes of silence. What the fuck is wrong with you?
It's not art. It's called. I mean, it's like they used to do this thing for anyone young. Okay, when they had vinyl records, and I know the makers did. When they had vinyl records, they used to do this thing, and what they do is they would leave the song playing out into the spiral at the end of the record, and then it would just repeat, and that was sort of like the end of the record. I've got quite a few that did that.
Yeah.
Okay. Or if you did, most records, it just was silent, and it would just go over and over and over. Even that's better than 5 minutes of silence.
Yeah, I had a fancy record player. If it recognized that it made the same movement more than twice, it would pick up the needle and bring it back to the front of the record.
I know they still have them rearranged, but not everyone.
I still have vinyl records.
I thought it was Philip Glass, but it could be John Cage, Daisy. You might be right. I'm old and befuddled, as well as bemused. I'm befuddled and old and easily confused.
I still have. I think my most prized is the wrong word. I have one of the
Heaven 17, 10,000 Pavement. I
don't know that one.
Heaven 17 came from Sheffield, which used to be a kind of source of pride, and were actually part of what ended up as who were those other one? Damn it! One with the funny haircut, Phil Oakley. Wasn't 5 minutes, you pedant. 4 minutes 33 is 5 minutes rounded up.
Yeah, or 4 minutes rounded down. What are you saying?
No, he's just saying John Cage wasn't 5 minutes though. Fuck's sake, 4 minutes 33, 5 minutes. That is not the point.
It's still 5 minutes too long.
Well, 4 minutes 33 too long. I mean, for goodness sake.
No. I'm
It's
going
still 5 minutes too
for half
long.
a minute because dead brain cells and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I want to say, I still have my vinyls. I still have one of my most favorite songs from Nazareth. If You Never Had No One. Great song. And there is old music is fun though. And new music is good too.
Human League, sorry. Heaven 17 were originally part of Human League. And then they split. So you had the two bands. The musicians in Heaven 17 and the front people in Human League.
Human League was like cult music.
It was new romantic stuff. Was the movement at that time?
Yeah, that's what they were called. But I mean, they weren't that far different than, for example, things like The Cure.
They were very different from things like The Cure at the time.
Well, what they turned into then.
Well, yeah, old bands evolve though.
It's not bad. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, it's no, where I was working at the time was overlooked in a little valley, overlooked by a school, and the girls in Human League went to that school, and people I worked with knew them, and apparently they ended up in the Human League by answering an advert. All of which is really irrelevant and uninteresting, but true.
Isn't that how the Sex Pistols got started too, to be honest?
No. The Sex Pistols were a band. Phil Cook, Steve Jones, and Glenn Matlock. They were signed under Malcolm McLaren, who ran a bondage clothing shop on the King's Road. Johnny Rotten, or John Lydon, was a regular in that shop, and they thought he would make a perfect frontman. That's how the Sex Pistols happened. They did not advertise. They said, "Hey, you look interesting. Do you want to be in a band?"
No, I wasn't there, so yeah, I'll take your word for it then.
Now, there were only 6. Well, maybe you did meet them down in a nightclub, but no, they advertised. Daisy. Well, that's the story that I remember from about 1980 or whenever it was, a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time, that's for sure. Oh, this is another great quote from Terry Pratchett, and this is a great explanation on why I often rail against people pushing a narrative. Elves are wonderful. They provoke wonder. Elves are marvelous. They cause marvels. Elves are fantastic. They create fantasies. Elves are glamorous. They project glamour. Elves are enchanting. They weave enchantment. Elves are terrific. They beget terror. The thing about words, that meaning can twist just like a snake. And if you want to find snakes, look for them behind words that have changed their meaning. No one ever said elves were nice. Elves were bad. And this is true for a lot of things. We see this in the feminism. Great example. Hey, it took us long enough to get there.
Modway, can I just say, when I said that thing about the glass being half full and half empty, that is precisely what I was talking about.
Yeah, that's the same thing. I know.
Exactly what I was talking about. That
yeah, I know.
You take the words and you can just twist them and they mean the opposite.
And this is what we're seeing with so much of the narrative spinning going on. Oh, the world is getting too hot, so everyone needs to stop driving a car, and we need to get more solar panels because that's better for the environment. Even though creating solar panels is probably the most devastating thing we can do to our environment. But yeah, no, sure. It's only the Hawk Father, indeed, Michael Keller. And he has to ride, otherwise the sun won't come up. Well, there will be a fiery ball of gas in the air, but that's not the same thing. No, but that's the thing. We get told so many things. Oh, we need to do something about CO2. Well, we could plant trees. No, that's not good enough. Yeah, but trees actually eat CO2. Yeah. And trees hold water. That's true that. And trees make sure that plants grow in the area. Yeah. Food for insects. Yeah, no, yeah, sure. Circle of life, all the thing. Yeah, no. It's not good enough. What do we need to do? We need to ban people from driving their car. Yeah, but that's not going to change anything now, is it?
Sorry, I'm laughing at Michael Keller's comment.
Yeah. Me too. Breathe, not eat.
He's excited, and he's getting a word in edgeways.
No. He meant the CO2 part.
No, I know, but I'm saying you're excited, and you're getting a word in edgeways.
Well, whether you call it breathe, and okay, they inhale, exhale, and they exhale oxygen and inhale CO2. We inhale CO2 and exhale oxygen. If there's too much oxygen, by the way, we're dying.
Only if you park under the trees, Paolo.
You haven't been paying close attention now, have you, Michael? You have to pay really close attention. Oh, the stories I could tell you about trees.
And Paolo, no. You don't have to wash your car on wastewater. What you do is you wait long enough for it to rain, and the job's done for no effort.
True that.
Speaking personally.
We could make those climate activists stop breathing. It makes a difference, but it would probably be considered murder.
No.
I think you're correct, Michael. It might not be the best of ideas. It'll serve some function.
Sorry, I commented very similar vein on Carlos's video. Was it yesterday? About the environmentalism, and I said this: you don't stop them breathing, you stop them flying.
Oh yeah, that too. But
you say, okay, people. If you believe air pollution's so bad, just don't fly anywhere. What do you mean you've got a skiing holiday you have to fly to? What do you mean you have a conference to go to? You could do it over the internet, you know. That would make more of a difference. And you leave them alive to suffer.
Yeah, but I mean, look at since the 1970s, the United Nations and their ilk have been warning us of all sorts of climate change. I mean, global cooling, global warming, acid rain, hole in the ozone layer, cows farting, whatnot. And we've been told that we live in increments of 10 years. And we keep living on increments of 10 years. Sometimes it's 12, but we keep living in those increments. And they're like the doomsday Christians. Oh, the world's going to end next week on Wednesday, 2:00. And then next Wednesday, 2:00 comes around, and they're like, yeah, no, I misinterpreted. It's in 2 weeks from now. Now, most people will stop listening to these idiots. But when it comes to climate alarmists, there is no people that stop listening to these idiots. No. It's in the year 2000. Well, there won't be any how do you call those things? North Pole, South Poles anymore. Oh, there won't be ice on the north and the south. Yeah, but there is. Yeah, but but there won't be. But there is. Yeah, but it'll get worse. Okay, but it hasn't. Yeah, but it will. And solar bears, no, not solar bears, polar bears, quite the opposite. Polar bears are dying. Don't you know? There's only so many polar bears out there in the world. Yeah, they nearly doubled their size since what? Since the 1970s. Since
No, they all just moved to Alaskan and Canadian towns. That's all.
well, they keep doing that too. Yeah, but there are actually more polar bears now than there ever were in the last 100 years. So,
well, okay. So, being old, okay, in my lifetime, we have had the threat of re-emerging into an ice age with the stopping of the Gulf Stream due to the icebergs melting out of places like Greenland, flowing south down the Atlantic, causing the warm water from the Gulf Stream to dive to the bottom of the ocean and stop warming countries like mine, which would be really miserable for me because I like our mild climate. And then we have global warming. Now, if you ask me, the obvious answer is you let global warming balance out what was happening to cause the ice age. Yay!
I once met a bipolar bear. Okay. Yeah, no, but it's true. And I mean, the whole North Pole, South Pole thing too. I mean, the magnetic North and magnetic South, we know it has changed. I mean, they aren't as constant as we like to think. Compared to human life, they are constant, I know.
Well, was it hundreds of thousands of years or something, and then they just flip. And no one even knows why they flip. They just flip.
They just did. And that's the thing, though. I mean, if we look at warming and cooling periods, we know there have been warmer periods than we are having now. And then there are people like, yeah, but in the last 10,000 years, the world has been cooler. Yes, we're at the end of an ice age.
No, we're not. We're in an interstitial.
Actually, okay, it's both possible, but
no, we're in an interstitial.
The idea of the world warming up would cause the rise of the belief that we're at the end of it. We're not, I know, because the glaciers are actually growing again. So that's kind of the opposite of what the end of an ice age would expect to do.
No, I mean the natural cycle is we're in an interstitial, which is why was presumed that the ice age would return, because we're not at the end of one, we're just in a relatively warm bit in the natural cycle of these things.
Yeah. And it's said that there are periods of warming, and we still don't know what is causing this warming. But we see, I mean, if they look back in history, we have had periods of, I mean, the world has been warmer than it has been now. Also has been a lot cooler, don't get me wrong. But yeah. But one of the things that we still don't seem to understand is how much influence does the sun have? How much influence does our location towards the sun have? I mean, we don't...
Well, the sun itself gets warmer and cooler.
Yeah.
We have an erratic orbit.
Yeah.
We have the precession, which is the wobbling of the Earth on its axis.
Uh-huh.
Which means that like northern latitudes are sometimes more disadvantaged in the winter and sometimes less disadvantaged in the winter, and vice versa. And presumably the opposite for the southern hemisphere, except for the same, but the other 6 months. So there are all these natural factors, is the point.
And we don't even recognize all of the natural factors. We think we know them all. We don't. We don't know what's going on between the sun and Earth. We don't know how much of dust there is, for example, filtering what of the sunlight actually gets to us. We don't know. Yet we are 100% adamant it's because of humans.
Well, I think the reason for it's not that humans cause it; it's that they accelerate it. It's not that there's a change; it's the rate of change. Because for evolution to work, the rate must be sufficiently slow for life to adapt.
Yeah.
That, I believe, is the point. But as always, people misstate things, and because they mistake things, people then misinterpret what they're saying, and thus you end up with all these arguments about that missed point. The point is the production of CO2 into the atmosphere a cause of heat. However, it has also been observed that since the rise of jets deposit stuff in the atmosphere, which causes the air to be less clear, as a result of which more sunlight gets reflected. And so the jet flight actually cools the planet.
Yeah.
Because less heat gets through, more gets reflected back into space.
Yeah.
And so what we actually find is these things are nowhere near as clear cut as everyone wants to make out. And why do people want to make it clear cut? Because thinking about a complex problem is hard.
Yeah. I mean, we don't want to think about the answer. This is the one bit about the science that I talked about earlier. Oh, let me see if I can find it real fast. Oh, I do hope so. Science is not about building a body of known facts. It's about a method for asking awkward questions. Thus, avoiding human tendency to believe whatever makes us feel good. And thinking you know an answer makes us feel good. Oh no, CO2 is the cause of the problems. Okay, but the world has had more CO2 than it has now. Even all of the extra stuff we put in the air. And the worst part is we're not actually putting extra stuff in the air because everything on Earth is a cycle. It's how do you call it?
The cycle.
Well, yeah, it's a closed environment. We are not putting CO2 in the air that wasn't here already because where would it come from?
Not just that, but originally, when life started on Earth in the oceans, there was no oxygen in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Oxygen was a poisonous byproduct of photosynthesis.
Yeah.
Once there was oxygen, life forms evolved to exploit it. But to think that life equals oxygen is a fundamental mistake because life actually started in anaerobic environments.
Yeah. Without oxygen, our oxygen actually was a detriment to life, which is kind of funny because this is also what we found. For example, when people started going to the moon, they thought, okay, how are we going to do this? And they did try to have confined areas with a lot of oxygen to see how that would work because, yeah, there's only so much you can take to the sky. And they realized that if you get humans into 100% oxygen environment, it's deadly.
Yeah.
Well, there you have that. Something we didn't know. And
when you say we didn't know, who's we?
Well, most people realized and assumed, but we hadn't had proof. There were actually people thinking that it's still a good thing. Oxygen is still a toxic thing. Humans can die from oxygen intoxication. This is completely true, Michael.
Yes, I know, but I was talking about how it was a pure toxin, as in it was deadly.
Oh, absolutely. It still is. I mean,
because it manifested in the atmosphere when all life was in the oceans and therefore not directly exposed to it. This is my point. At that time, billions of years ago.
No, but it's still actually, if we look at this, the human cell life, the main cause of us getting older or cellular decay is oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, oxygen causes more decay to the body. I mean, cancer cells can actually be caused by oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's because of something. It's radiation or a little speck of dust, and yeah, you know what? All those things can have influence too.
It can be genetic. Apparently, okay.
All of these things can be.
No, moderate. I have to interject this because it's gross. Okay. One of the facts I recently heard on Honey Badger Radio is there is now viruses that women have down there that when generous lovers satisfy the women down there, it is a major cause of throat cancer. No, seriously. And so a lot of young men are dying as a consequence of throat cancer they got by being generous lovers. Just saying.
Gives a whole new meaning to being a suicidal lover. Oh, well. I have to interject because it is gross. What? Throat cancer?
Yes, I know it's gross, Anita. That's why I really had to tell you.
Oh. You learn stuff on this channel, Michael.
Michael, you should know because you listen to Karen Strawn, and that's one of her recent things she likes to say.
But yeah, no, if we look at the whole concept of the Earth dying, the planet Earth is in a location that we like to call the Goldilocks zone.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit more to the left, a little bit more to the right, and it's too hot or too cold. And we're not stable. I mean, the whole movement of the Earth whilst chasing the sun through the universe.
We don't chase the sun through the universe.
Yeah, we do actually.
No, we don't.
Yeah, we do.
No, we don't.
Yeah, we do.
No, we don't.
What, you think the sun is stationary?
No, but we don't chase it. We rotate around it, trapped in its gravitational field. That is not the same as chasing.
We are trapped in it. I'll grant you that.
We are in its gravitational field, and the whole solar system has the same momentum through space-time.
Roughly, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But we're still chasing the sun because the sun is the one that goes.
But we're not chasing it. We are circling it.
We are never in front of the sun.
Yes, we are.
No, we are not.
Because if the sun has a direction, by definition, that was what you were claiming. We orbit the sun, and therefore, at one point we must be in front of it, as at the other time we are behind it.
I'll see if I can find the visualization of it, because you're correct that we are in an orbit because of the sun. We're not really in an orbit around the sun.
Well, we go around it. That's a semantic quibble.
We're not going physically around the sun. And I have to.
Okay, we're not physically going around the sun. Really?
Okay, yeah.
We're on a circular orbit. That's what an orbit is.
No, we're not on a circular orbit.
We're not a circular orbit.
No, we're not. Okay, let me see if I can.
I think you should go back and have a fight with Isaac Newton, because he was pretty adamant we're on an orbit.
Yeah, I know. And guess what? If the sun is moving, and we're being pulled by its gravity.
We're not being pulled by its gravity. The whole solar system is moving. We are rotating around it in accordance with our own momentum and the effects of the gravitational distortion of space-time caused by the presence of a heavy massed object, the sun. We would shoot out if the gravity of the sun were not sufficiently great as to prevent us escaping.
Okay, I'm not going to.
The sun is moderating our orbit. Therefore, we are not chasing it, because to chase it would be imply that it has no influence on our orbit.
Let me show you, because we are chasing it. It has an influence on our orbit, but we are chasing it.
I don't know who Mickey Spork is, Michael Keller. Sorry.
Okay, let me show this. This is kind of funny because it should be working already.
In Dutch, it's probably rubbish then.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
Yeah. You're not funny though. Puh. Okay, so this is the idea that we're having, right? The sun and the planets are revolving around it, but the sun isn't stationary itself.
No, the whole lot is moving in space-time. Absolutely, yes.
Okay, so then
consider it like this. Just consider it like this. You're in an aeroplane. The aeroplane is traveling at 500 miles an hour. Faster than that if you're a funny European with them kilometer thingies.
Yeah.
And you drop something. Does that thing drop shooting backwards at 500 miles an hour? No, it drops as if it is static.
No.
That is gravity.
No, because it also... Listen, if you drop something from an airplane, it wouldn't land at the precise position that you dropped it.
No, because you've dropped it, and the precise position you dropped it from is above the place where it lands.
No, because when you're traveling, even if you're traveling faster than the Earth is traveling, as soon as you drop it, it starts off with the same speed you have, but it will revert to the speed, and it can literally fall behind where you were when dropping it. Because the Earth itself is also rotating. So you get this. Let me continue with this one. And this is what's going on. This is how we are rotating around the world, around the sun.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're
absolutely
not.
But we're not chasing it.
Yes, we are.
We are not.
Maybe this will show it better.
If you want a better term, it is dragging us.
Fair enough.
Dragging. See, dragging.
Fair enough. That's
not chasing. That was my argument. That was my argument. You said chasing, and my point was it's not chasing. The primary motive force comes from the sun.
Yeah, no, I agree that. Okay, dragging. You can use dragging. I can live with dragging. Well, the thing is, any attack. That's the funny thing about gravity. The sun can't let go.
Well, it isn't letting go.
No.
It's a warping of space-time. It is not.
But the funny thing is this. We know that the sun is moving through space. We are being dragged along with it. And its influence on us is quite clear. It causes the movement of everything. And the further we are from the sun, the colder it gets, the closer we are to the sun, the warmer it gets. All of these things have influence. The sun doesn't travel at a constant speed itself. It itself is being influenced by the gravity of other things as well. So there will be moments in time when it might slow down or speed up. Now, giving the plane's example of John a moment ago, if you're in a plane or in a bus or in a car or whatever, and the car, bus, plane, whatever, changes speed, either in acceleration.
I didn't say change speed. You're talking about acceleration. The effects of acceleration are different. I'm saying you're in a plane. You are traveling at 500 miles an hour through space in relation to the Earth, but when you drop something, the object you're dropping is also traveling at 500 miles an hour in relation to the Earth, and so drops straight down.
I know what you said. That's not the point I'm going to make now. I'm going to talk about...
well, don't argue about the point I didn't make then.
I didn't argue about it. I'm going to...
Oh, you little liar.
I didn't.
Okay, in the chat. In the chat.
Instead of follow, okay.
But yes, for he had argued with it, and for no, he hadn't argued with it.
Anyway, the point I'm going to make now is we don't understand a lot of things. The Earth is spinning around the sun. Sometimes we're closer to it, sometimes we're further away from it. Now, whilst the sun is dragging us along, what would happen to us if we're in a plane, bus, or any vehicle, and the vehicle would instantly accelerate or slow down? It will influence us, even though we are in this vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
The same is true for whether the sun slow down? Can the sun accelerate? Yes, because the sun itself is also being forced by
External forces.
Gravitational forces and whatnot. And there's so much we don't know. So if the sun is moving through space and it is being slowed down for whatever reason, we will move closer to the sun. And if the sun is moving through space and it suddenly starts to accelerate, then for a period of time, we will move away from the sun. This in itself has a huge impact on our environment.
And ironically, a counterintuitive one, because the sun is heating up.
Well, yeah, that too.
No, not that too. Because people don't understand this. When you said we are in the Goldilocks zone, we will only be in that Goldilocks zone for so long. When the sun heats sufficiently, we will cease to be in a Goldilocks zone, which will move more in the direction of Mars. And
Yeah.
so,
We
and
already know that
actually moving away from the sun is not inherently to cool. It could be equally merely to keep us from heating up.
Yeah. No, that's true. But all these things can have influences. And we don't recognize, well, that's not true. We do recognize some of these influences.
But politicians don't, because it's not a sound bite.
Yeah, this is true for a lot of scientists as well. I mean, 90% of scientists agree with climate change. No.
Yeah, but how many climatologists agree with climate change? Because a scientist in biology doesn't really have much of a say, if you ask me.
True that. It's kind
no,
of
but it's a sort of slippery, disingenuous language people use when they want to distort a situation to their advantage.
I'm sorry, I missed that because my headphones fell off.
You missed nothing. I'm sure the chat will agree.
No, but the funny thing is, and our sun isn't a huge mess in the universe, really. So yeah, it could be influenced quite.
Okay, sorry. Can I just answer Paolo? Can I answer Paolo? Paolo, no, our sun will not go supernova. It's not massive enough. It will expand into a red giant. And then once the final fuel, typically the remaining helium, has run out, it will collapse into a red dwarf. But it will expand massively and engulf a huge quadrant of space that is currently not occupied by the sun before it does so.
But and in all fairness, if the sun would expand into a red dwarf, we will be engulfed. The Earth would
not expand into a red dwarf. You collapse into a red dwarf.
You expand into a red giant and then you collapse into a red dwarf.
Yeah.
But in the expanding phase, Earth will be engulfed.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I said.
Yeah.
But so we will not be a supernova. That's the point. We'll not be a supernova. No. Our sun isn't massive enough for a supernova.
Well, at this point in time, who knows what happens? Because in all fairness, it has been happening that suns have collided, for example. And we don't expect this to happen to our sun. But then again, we don't know what's going on in 5 billion years from now. We simply can't see.
No. There's enough astronomical data for them to be able to predict it with a high degree of accuracy in terms of the conceptual flow of what's going to happen. The science is pretty settled on that.
Yes, but the thing is, there are such things as rogue planets, and there are such things as how do you call these? gravity wells that we don't know what they are caused by.
Well, to be more accurate, there is dark matter and dark energy. We don't know what either does. And the entire behavior of galaxies is inconsistent with the measured mass of those galaxies. Because according to the calculations, according to the mass we can measure, the outsides of the galaxies should spin much more quickly, as is the nature of a rotating disk.
Yeah.
The outside moves at a much faster pace than the inside.
Yeah.
And as a consequence, the outer stars should fly off, but they don't. This is assumed to be due to some strange effect of dark energy. But no one can even find out what the heck it is, let alone describe it.
Yeah. And it's the fact that we claim to know certain things whilst not knowing them. That's John Modwin arguing. It's like the seven wizards from the Pratchett books.
Now you're speaking Modwin's language there, Michael. So well done.
Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh boy! Back to Terry Pratchett. Yes, yes, yes. It's kind of funny, by the way. Good Omens is a book that Terry Pratchett wrote.
Sunburn tattoos are a thing.
Sorry?
As the eternally pale person I am, melanin deprived and all that, sunburn is a long acquaintance of mine, and I generally just avoid the sun altogether. Just saying.
Yeah, me too, funny enough, but I shouldn't because vitamin D and all that. But I wanted to share something else because
AFK mode, by the way. One sec.
Terry Pratchett, together with what's his name, Gaiman, I forgot his first name, wrote a book named Good Omens, and Good Omens is a book on the end of the world where the angels and demons are ready to fight, and there's this Antichrist boy that came to the world and grows up, etc., etc., etc. The book is brilliant. The series is pretty good. Not as good as the book, but still pretty good. I would advise you watch it. And it runs on Amazon Original. And now comes the funny part. More than 20,000 Christians have signed a petition demanding Netflix to cancel the program Good Omens. I did mention that it's not on Netflix, right? I did mention it's on Amazon Prime, right? It's so brilliant. I mean, you've got a group of people trying to stop a book from happening, or rather a filming of a book from happening, and they start complaining at the wrong sources. It's brilliant. Anyway, I once tried to be dragged by the sun. I sat down and waited for it. Yeah, that doesn't work like that.
No. The sun is like an SJW. You might want to leave it alone, but it's not going to leave you alone.
Well, there is that. There is that. And don't you? That's another funny thing, because, for example, in the sun, in Western Europe, Northern Europe, the sun is often symbolized as an emblem of life, because sunlight is needed to grow stuff and it forces life to happen. When you go to, for example, the Middle East or Sub-Saharan Africa or Saharan Africa, the sun is actually a symbol of death, because it's too bloody hot and things die because of it.
Yeah.
It's all about perspective.
Toxic Threads linked me a video recently from this guy who'd discovered the mystery of the ancient Greeks. And this guy was trying to make a claim between a Pythagorean theory and the molecular structure of water. And basically, it was a load of bollocks. But the point is this. But the Greeks understood water to be the source of all life. Well, you don't need to know molecular biology to get that.
Yeah.
You just have to live a bit, especially somewhere warm.
Yeah. Places with water, there's life. Places where there's little water, there's less life.
Go across the desert without water, you die.
Die.
Who'd have thought it?
Who the folk? But yeah, no, that I mean, it's all. Are you being well educated, you good lads? Because
Yeah.
thinking
And we are trying to demonstrate that we have read books. Even if we have only vaguely understood what we read.
Hence, read Terry Pratchett, because all of this wisdom. Oh. And some of the funniest thing about wisdom is, or even empirical wisdom.
Wisdom, in the I accuse Modway privately of channeling Frank Zappa earlier. Wisdom is the domain of the whiz. That's from Joe's Garage. That's 2 and 3.
Indeed. No, but that's not quite the point that I wanted to make. But even a lot of empirical data proved that what we thought to be real actually is. Now, in some cases, science has proven that what we thought isn't, but in most cases, what we thought that is really is. I mean, who would have thought?
The fundamental difference between ideology and science is science, while seeking the truth, will say something the ideologue will never say. I don't know.
That's a very good autocorrect joke there. Like recognizing that if you like holes in someone, they die. No, not like poke holes. Thank you for this comic relief autocorrect. But yeah, no, you're correct. Once you start poking holes in things, on average, that's a problem. Well, you want Good Omens, the series, Real Raven. You can get it on how do you call it? Goes to show that Xtians have better Netflix. I'm pretty sure that I don't understand that one. Which is also a sign of recognition. See, I don't know what you mean. I recognize I don't know what you mean. You got any idea what he means there?
I've never watched Netflix. I never intend to watch Netflix. I have no interest in Netflix. I hope it crashes, burns, and dies. And I've no idea what an action is either. Christians,
could be. Oh, and Nick Radio, there are no such things as pointless internet arguments on this channel. if not for the laughs, then maybe. But listen, they bring laughs, therefore they are not pointless. Even if we don't agree.
So screw someone here for that, but I won't say a name. No. The whole point of this stream, in particular, is to have pointless arguments. That is its raison d'etre.
I can't sit to me. Oh, Real Raven, no.
Yeah. What would your wife say?
Who pays for stuff on the internet? That's why they invented torrents. Indeed, Real Raven. If you want Good Omens, look around. I'm pretty sure you can find the torrent for it. And it's well worth it. I can tell you that. I thought about using the free month of Netflix when I had this surgery scheduled. Good thing I didn't sign up. I didn't have enough network coverage to use anything else than email. Yeah, that's annoying, Michael. We set up a Netflix account because they seem to have nice kids shows. Maybe So let's see how that goes. Let's a tryout. Let's.
No, trust me. Follow my lead. Never watch Netflix. Be grateful.
I don't.
I'm talking to everybody, including those speculating about signing up for Netflix. Don't do it.
Well, Ludicrous, I didn't think Tennant was that good as a Doctor Who, to be honest. And a lot of people tell me that he's the main reason why Doctor Who went SJW. So that could be true.
Really?
And there are definitely...
I would suspect, call me old-fashioned, but it's the writers who make the show go SJW, not the actors who just say the words.
No. He's part of that team as well.
David Tennant helped write the show.
The new show, yeah.
Doctor Who?
Yeah.
Not the new show, Doctor Who. He was a doctor a while ago.
The new Doctor Who.
Yeah, well, considering the original Doctor Who was actually shown before I was born, I'm already an old git.
That one is, I mean, that Doctor Who is absolutely brilliant. I love them. I think I loved the fourth. That one with the long scarf. I thought he was.
Yes. Why does my brain always die on me? Which new? No, Michael. There was an original number of Doctors until the early 1990s when the BBC cancelled it. Then when the BBC brought it back, that is the new Doctor Who. There have been several Doctors under the new Doctor Who, but there is a distinct line between the old incarnations, which started at the beginning of the 1960s with Hartnell. William Hartnell, I think he was called.
Yeah, I think it was, yeah. Oh, he was a great Doctor. He was definitely the typical patriarchal man that people are now railing against.
Well, he was a proper Shakespearean actor who was really pissed at doing this children's show.
Yeah, he was. But he made a brilliant Doctor, though. It's mostly black and white. I don't think I've seen him in colour.
Of course he was nearly black and white. No,
AFK a sec, I need to do some downloading. I'll be right back.
Doctor Who didn't get SJW until Matt Smith was in it. I will say now, I have never watched Doctor Who since the second Davison, Colin Davison. He was the last one I watched, so that would be the end of the 70s, perhaps, early 80s, I don't know. A long time ago. Or what's he play the Doctor? I saw Vinnie Jones play for Chelsea. Oh, I tell a lie. He even played briefly for my team, but he was shit for them for some reason. The team was shit. No, Colin Baker. Yes, sorry, Ludicrous. Yes, the second Baker. I knew there were two of some name. Yes, Colin Baker. Yes, he was the last one I watched. I didn't quite put up with. I know he's an actor now. Lock, Dock, and Two Thingy Barrels. Very good in it. So I'm talking about his proper career as a footballer. Vinnie Jones has been in the X-Men movie, the Arrow TV series. Nothing would surprise me, mate. Nothing would surprise me.
Got his name though, bloody hell. Still trying to find out. Guys, do you know who this guy was? What's his name was?
Who?
Share. Because this was my favorite Doctor, but I can't remember his name.
Tom Baker, Ludicrous already mentioned it.
Ah, okay. He was my favorite.
You had William Hartnell. Oh God, what's that guy's name? I can never remember his name. The next one, he was only briefly. Then you had John Pertwee. Then you had Tom Baker. Then you had, I think, was it Peter Davison after Tom Baker? Somebody else, Colin Baker, and then the annoying little twat who killed off Doctor Who the first time round. I think that just about sums up the first lot.
But I did really appreciate the first series. And in all fairness, when they rebooted the new series, it didn't start off bad, but it became cringy as fuck.
The almighty trash heap. Yes, indeed. I am indeed. Oh dear. They don't put things in a nice, easy form for the mentally challenged like me to read.
But it's kind of funny because if you look at Good Omens, the whole SJW influence is still there, not as badly, but it is still there. So it's kind of funny because, for example, the Archangel Gabriel is a woman.
Yeah,
which doesn't really matter that much. I don't care because
no. Okay, either all the angels in the Bible were men, or they had no sex, but they were not female.
Well, actually, I would say they're sexless, but
no, but they all had male names, and they had swords and were warriors.
True. And it's kind of funny, but the Archangel, and then they started using women for certain roles because it made sense for something, because these were important characters. But the funny thing is, if you know the book Good Omens, then you know that these people are being made fun of. So they are pushing the narrative of feminism and women empowerment, but at the same time, it loses all footing the farther you get into the story. And I seriously think they didn't think it through.
Sorry, no, you're not kidding.
No, but
you're implying that there was thought.
Well, indeed.
As in a conscious, overarching plan, as opposed to just the cobbling together of a bunch of ancient texts.
Yeah, and
which were not written in the order in which they were published. The book of Genesis, for example, the first book of the Old Testament, is considered to be one of the last to have been written.
And it's kind of funny because Pepper is I'm going to spoil a little bit, guys, sorry, but Pepper is one of the friends of Adam, and Adam is the Antichrist, and the world is coming to an end because the four horsemen are coming, and then the devils and the demons are starting to fight, and blah 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 blah. And Adam was supposed to lead the army of darkness, but Adam and his friends are standing against the four horsemen, trying to stop the whole thing from happening. So there is death, and opposite of death is Adam. There is Pepper, it's a friend of Adam, and she's standing opposite to War. War is also a woman, by the way, even in the original story, because let's be honest, more wars have started because of women than because of men. Or at least women have been used as an excuse for war, I guess. I don't know. And Pepper, in the book, even though she isn't really a feminist, in the book, she is a child of a single mother who went to live the life of a hippie and then thought this is a bad idea, so went home. But the Pepper in the video, in the story, is somewhat of a feminist. But at certain points in time, she's really not, because it doesn't fit the story. So she's, for example, a very feisty girl, but she is kind of against violence, and then she has to kill death. And the being against violence part is way more important than being a feminist part. And they couldn't use the feminist part because War is a woman. And it keeps making small mistakes like that. It's so funny. And I'm pretty sure they didn't do it on purpose. Anyway, sorry, go on. People, Good Omens. Check it out. It's really worth it. Read the book first, though. It's better.
Yeah, well, the problem with adaptations is, first, they always fuck the story, and secondly, they always try and do something to the story when the whole point is to do the story because you like it in the first place, but then, no, we can't actually tell that story. Then what the fuck are you bothering with? None of it makes sense. It's like, so one of the things I said that got all this started is that my favourite book is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. And the fundamental point about Jane Eyre is that the two central characters, Jane herself and Rochester, they're both ugly. Not plain, but they are ugly.
Mm.
And what happens whenever there's an adaptation? Hollywood cannot cast the lead characters who are ugly. So they always cast handsome people. Well, guess what? You've just destroyed the whole point of the bloody story.
Yes. But I'm going to respond to Nick's now. I'm not a Doctor Who fan, but considering what happened to Star Trek and Star Wars, I still lament the loss. Well, Nick, understandable. And the worst part is what happened to Doctor Who is, funny enough, the bloody same thing. It's an ideology trying to dominate the fantasy of other people.
Yeah. Well, you see, I always thought Next Generation was a mistake because I'm old enough to remember the original Star Trek before Next Generation, and the interplay of Kirk, McCoy, and Spock with the side roles, people like Scotty. It was a lovely mix of comedy with, making serious points and, but it didn't take it seriously. William Shatner is a great comedic actor. And, it worked.
It worked. That's the most.
And then they brought back in the Next Generation, and they just made it so fucking po-faced, so bloody uptight, and it's like you missed the one thing that made it enjoyable: the fact it didn't take itself seriously.
Yeah, and I had the same problem with Voyager, for example. I like Voyager; it's not that bad, but
better than Next Generation.
It was better than Next Generation, I have to admit that. But every problem had the same solution.
Mm-hmm.
Every problem had the same solution. And I mean, the interaction between the characters was minimal. Feminism had already had grasps on Voyager pretty much.
No, I think you got it right. Sorry, I think you got it right first time. Weasel Crusher, Michael. Yes.
Yeah, Weasel.
The worst character in any television series I've ever seen.
But, I mean, come on. It was a meme before memes existed. Shut up, Wesley. It was a meme before memes existed.
No, memes did exist. Memes have always existed.
Well,
it's just that they weren't invented until 1976 when Richard Dawkins coined the term meme. And that was definitely before the Next Generation.
Yeah. But people didn't really use them. Let's put it like that. Before
No, people did. People did. Okay. Kilroy was here. Kilroy was here. Was a phenomenon that occurred during World War II.
True that.
And troops put this symbol everywhere. That was a meme.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true that. Well, let me rephrase it then. Before memes went mainstream.
Well, it was before internet culture. This is the thing you're missing.
Yeah, maybe.
Because it's what has changed is the ability to share these things and for thus to have a massive explosion in popularity and then a collapse of popularity. That is an internet phenomenon. But the cultural concept isn't new.
No, you're correct. You're correct. Yeah, but
And
Kes kind of was a great example of early onset Mary Sue.
what is Kez?
Kes is a character in Voyager.
Okay,
Uh,
which
love
one?
The love interest of Neelix.
The love interest of Neelix.
Yeah.
This is all Greek to me, and I watched some of it.
Neelix was an alien that they adopted more or less, and Neelix then tried
Oh,
to.
was Kez the pretty blonde, platinum blonde?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't actually pay any attention to what you were saying.
The Okampa one, as if that makes more sense. Yeah. No, but it started out decently, but then Kes became pretty much a Mary Sue that could do everything. But the same is true. I mean, the whole interaction between the characters.
Well, I heard people have said that about Janeway.
Yeah,
She was a
that
Mary
was
Sue.
very true.
And the whole point about the original Star Trek was that none of the characters was flawless. And therefore, you have the interplay between different approaches to an issue.
Yeah.
And working out why one solution, which might have seemed obvious, was the wrong solution, and so forth.
Yeah.
You know, so Kirk could screw up, even Spock could screw up because he was too logical and not emotional about it. You know, and it's that interplay between different types of people that is what makes society. And the problem is when you get these all-powerful or wonderful beings, it's just absurd.
Yeah.
Because reality is not like that. We all have strengths and weaknesses.
That was also one of the problems that you had with how do you call it, with Voyager. I mean, Janeway was the captain. She wasn't the technician, but she knew more about the engine than the technical staff. And I'm like, doesn't make sense. So,
Sense? You're looking for sense?
Oh, that's the thing, though. Yeah, but I mean, if you look at the original Star Trek, even the Next Generation, there were still logical things in it. I mean,
oh no, the Star Trek, the original, was the most expensive TV show ever made at that point.
Yeah,
and they employed proper physicists to do their very best.
Well,
to get the physics right. No, I know.
Contemporary.
And let's be honest, they invented, talking of memes, they invented conceptually much that has now come to pass. Mobile phones.
True that. Sliding doors and mobile phones, and we still don't have warp speed, though.
Michael, I was taking the piss. I mean, what?
No, but I did like the original Star Trek. The Next Generation wasn't that bad. Voyager was, you know what easy listening is to music. I mean, you listen to it, but it's not the best. But it fills the room, so okay.
That's what yeah. Well, that's why I've never listened to it.
Yeah.
Life's too short to subject yourself to mediocre experiences.
Well,
so what's there all these people listening to us for? Just realised the hole I'd dug myself in there.
Well, let me kick an SJW. I'll accelerate it to warp speed before it hits the sun. That's from DS9, yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
DS9 was kind of funny. And it did take back to a lot of the original Star Trek things, even though the storylines were vastly different. But the fact that you had a black captain wasn't an issue. I mean, he was just the leader of Deep Space Nine. It was someone had to be. It was him. none of the social justice identitarian bullshit really was an issue in the original the Deep Space Nine series. Though in the end it became rather rubbishy.
Well, do I have to remind the youngsters who don't know that the first ever interracial kiss on television was Captain Kirk and Lieutenant Uhura?
Yeah. Oh, Lieutenant Uhura. She had a named role in a big screen thing. I mean,
she was an officer. She had an important role.
So yeah, that was a big deal at the time. And then they had the gay Asian guy.
Yeah, but he wasn't gay in the series.
Well, he
He's
wasn't
just
gay.
an actor who was gay.
But yeah, I mean, we hadn't had any idea of the sexuality of most of the people in the crew. Well, obviously, it was quite clear from James T. Kirk sleeping around with everything that had tits.
Well, no, because that was the character. That was the whole point. He was the stereotypical, masculine alpha, right?
Yeah.
And that was his role. And as part of his role was to demonstrate how such people sometimes can be hot-headed and rush into solutions without thinking. Yeah. And it was the role of Spock and to go, whoa, we need to apply a bit of logic to the situation. Yeah.
And the helm guy from Enterprise E. I have no idea who you mean there, Michael. Sorry.
I like that mixed radio.
No, but the thing is, the stories made sense. The characters had flaws. They had motives. They were driven. I mean, Scotty would drink Scotch, but he wouldn't touch bourbon.
Well, of course, he was a proud Scot. The Scotty.
It made sense. I mean, they were tangible. You could.
And they played. No, the point was they played with the stereotypes. As I say, the strength of the original was it was tongue in cheek. They laughed at themselves. The trouble with Next Generation was it was so po-faced.
Yeah, but it didn't fall for all the whole idea of identities wasn't an issue.
I don't agree. I don't agree. There was a lot of self-conscious casting, moralizing, and stuff in Next Generation.
In the Next Generation, yeah, but in the original series.
No, in the original series, because the original series was made in the late 60s. It was a different time. They were tackling. You've got to understand that they'd only just ended segregation when they made the original Star Trek.
But at the same time, I mean, it wasn't part of the storyline, and it wasn't not part of the storyline as in let's pretend it's not there. No. It simply wasn't there. I mean, nobody cared.
Exactly. And that is a better depiction of how the future should be. That it's unremarkable that people have different identities. So why would you even mention it?
Yeah, indeed.
I'll pay the Horgans.
One per person, the whores. Well, you can have a male or female. It depends on what you want.
I have no idea what he's talking about.
Raija is Raija.
Raija, it says.
Yeah. It's a pleasure planet.
Uh-huh.
I don't really make that.
Well, let's put it like this. Las Vegas. Would you ever go?
No.
No, me neither. It's the last place on this planet I would ever go. I could think of war zones I'd prefer to go to than Las Vegas.
No, I wouldn't say that.
No, I would, because to me it is it is how I understand hell.
So yeah.
But there are people, lovely people I know and admire, who do like going to Las Vegas. I do not view them ill for that. I merely state that what is a pleasure planet is an entirely subjective thing.
Yeah, but that's kind of funny because I think I can't remember which. I think it was in the original Enterprise. No, not the original. Enterprise the first. They also went to Risa, and there Risa was actually a holiday planet. So you could partake in all the debauchery and whatnot, but you also could sit back, relax, read a book, listen to the music, have a good view, all that.
Yeah. Because for some
See
people,
you later,
a
Nick.
nice holiday is a wander around ruins with a guide telling you all about the history.
Yeah,
And I'm speaking personally here.
but that's funny because in the first Enterprise, which is like the second to last series from now, they actually went to Risa, and Risa wasn't that. I mean, you had the debauchery, but you also had all the other stuff. But in the next generation and in the original stories, the original Star Trek, you didn't have these parts of Risa. Risa was just, well, a whorehouse, a Las Vegas in its debauchery.
No. In the original Star Trek, it was more implied.
True, it was implied, but it's called End. No, that's death, isn't it?
And
Going back to Terry Pratchett, the ritual of End.
oh, okay.
Ask Ent anything. Ask Ent.
Okay.
I remember that one. Long ago. I really read books.
Ears, nose, and throat. It's a department in a hospital.
Oh, you meant Enterprise.
Star Trek Enterprise. No, ears, nose, and throat. Honestly. Ents were also sentient trees in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Anyway, we're suitably off topic again.
Bit like Blackpool, ludicrous. Oh my God. You really have to be British to get that.
I don't think it was like Blackpool, to be honest.
You been to Blackpool, Modway?
I haven't. I've seen images.
No. Trust me. Images don't do justice to a place like Blackpool.
Well, let me see if I can. True that images don't do.
What's Blackpool? It is a northern British working class tourist resort which has a tower that is a model, literally, of the Eiffel Tower. And donkey rides on the beach. And it being Lancashire, it rains a lot. And, well...
Okay, so but this is Risa. Let me see if I can share this thingy. Share.
It is to Las Vegas what...
if I see this...
a local village is to New York, shall we say.
Yeah, okay. But if I'm talking about Blackpool and I'm talking about Risa, the image you're seeing is from Risa from the Enterprise series.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but...
That's not Blackpool.
That's
really... That's more like the Med. That's more like the Mediterranean.
It is. It is. There you have it.
Do a search on Blackpool and get them a picture of Blackpool.
I can do that. Blackpool by night.
Yes.
And then you get a completely black image.
Oh, no.
I know. Blackpool Pleasure Beach.
Good crime.
Let me see, that should be it. It's
Okay.
Let me see if this is this the real Blackpool. I think it is.
Well, show it.
You
can show it to me. No, you can't because they'll see what I see. So just show it.
I can show it to all of you because I don't mind.
Yes, that is Blackpool. Yes, that is correct.
So this is Blackpool.
Yes, and that is the Blackpool Tower, which is actually coming out of the roof of a building. It's not freestanding.
Yeah. And then there is this. And I'm like, okay.
I want to scroll down your screen. Yeah, it has a pleasure park, a theme park.
Pleasure Beach. I'm going to remove Pleasure Beach then. And then we get this.
Yeah, you really want a close-up of like people walking along the front?
That's going to be a little bit difficult.
For some strange reason, that's a nice picture. Okay, that's a perfect picture because it shows the beach and typical English beach wear. It makes the bikini look quite risque.
Yeah. And
it's not even raining. You can almost detect blue in that sky.
And this is the most famous part of Blackpool, the pier.
North Pier, because it has 3.
True that. But which is weird because I don't see it here. Did they remove it or something?
Well, I think the word burnt down is more likely.
Because
there's a pier.
But I only see one pier now.
Yes, but I think that's because the other one is being taken over a second pier. Second pier is underneath from where the...
right. Yeah. Makes sense.
Paolo, the British invented tourism just so we could get out of our god-awful country. Trust me.
Oh, that is so.
Well, when you live in your lovely sunny countries in the south of Europe, you don't need to think of going hundreds of miles to travel to another one. Okay, the French can holiday in France, the Portuguese in Portugal, Spanish in Spain, Italians in Italy, Greeks in Greece. But if you come from a miserable, rainy country like ours, you want to leave.
The thing is, every country in Europe has beautiful things, but Great Britain only has history.
Can I tell you, he says here, I don't even understand why you go back. Can I say, 90% of people on their foreign holidays go, I wish I didn't have to go back.
See, I never had that problem.
That's why I only said 90%.
Fair enough.
But almost every holiday I had with my wife, it was, oh God, why do we have to go home? Can't we set up a business here?
Oh, you've never been to the Netherlands then? Oh.
It's a funny money, chocolate money.
Sorry?
Paolo said that the Swiss don't need vacations. They work all the time making chocolates and managing funny money. And I said, it's the funny money, chocolate money.
Ah, right.
I like chocolate money. It's the best thing about Christmas.
It's kind of funny when chocolate money is worth more than the money you're actually using. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Okay, you buy a net of fake coins made out of chocolate, and you're paying real coins at a larger amount than you're buying fake coins. Chocolate is worth more than money. Okay, there we go. You have anything interesting? No. Well, okay. Stop sharing. The Swiss currency is very bright. Okay, well. So is the euro.
Yes. It's to distract people from what it represents. Ooh, shiny.
Let's not think about the reality we live in. Whoa, we might cry. Anyway.
It is. We've been bugging people for 2 hours.
Which wasn't supposed to be the thing. I mean, the whole idea was that these streams would be like an hour long.
Yeah, well, we had an hour on the topic and then another hour taking the piss.
Okay, let's bring it back. Let's see if I can find a nice quote for the ending.
Oh, sorry, I'm just typing a little retort. Not retort, report. Well, just a witticism, if you find it amusing. Michael Keller says there's more colours in their currency than the euro. And so I'm going, at least it's not racist.
Pecunia non olet, John, indeed. Anyway, as bringing it back to the end, for most of the people who didn't know Terry Pratchett often was imaged wearing a hat, and it looked cool on him. It really did. And on his hat, he once said, "I do take it off sometimes. How else is a man to take a shower?"
Well, then he should have a bath, then he doesn't have to take it off.
Well,
I don't know.
Then you don't take a shower. I have a bath and I have a shower.
Yeah, I'm saying though, but he doesn't have to shower because he can bathe, and then he wouldn't have to take off. That's all I'm saying. Just being thinking a little laterally about it.
He has to shine the top of his dome, doesn't he?
Well, no, because he wears a hat.
And having said that, this is where I'm going to call it quits. Oh, thank you everyone for coming. I hope you enjoyed yourself as much as I have. And
yes, I know it's not taking a shower, Michael. I'm saying, oh, for goodness sake, these bloody Swiss people.
Indeed, Michael, I agree with you. But don't worry, he lives on an island.
No.
Yeah, you do.
No, I mean, it isn't taking a shower is a statement of fact which is blatantly obvious but irrelevant to what I said.
Oh, okay.
Because what I said was, the quote implies he takes his hat off to have a shower, and I'm saying you could have a bath instead of a shower, which is not the same thing, and then you wouldn't have to remove your hat ever.
Well, I'm not wearing a hat, so I can't comment on that.
Oh, for goodness sake. It's a very little lateral thought on the very short quote that's shown there.
Anyway, thank you everyone for coming. And I hope to see you all Wednesday when we have a great talk about something completely unrelated. Or next Saturday when God knows what will happen. And I hope to... Oh God,
Michael, I thought I did say what I meant to say. It wasn't my fault. You guys are a little impervious to logic. Sorry, only kidding.
Anyway, guys, thank you all for coming. And bye-bye from Old Fart and Older Fart. And I guess this is where we say bye-bye.
Bye.